Alright, so man, I had just started this new job, and I've probably been there for like 3 weeks now. Not long enough to really get into any type of trouble, you know. So my phone on my second day at work ended up breaking. Like on my second day at work, I was climbing up a ladder. The ladder was 12 feet high. So when I got to the very last ladder, my phone fell out of my back pocket and it slammed onto the ground, and I was out of a phone for like 2 whole weeks. I was out of a phone for 2 whole weeks. Almost 3, which is basically didn't have a phone the entire time I've been working there. But one day, I can't remember when, but I remember exactly who I was talking to. But I was walking back to the building because my lunch was not over. At least I suspected it was. I was outside for a while already, and plus I didn't have a phone, so I couldn't find time. So it was this girl walking, and like I said, phone broke. So I walked up to the girl. I asked her. I said, "Would you happen to have the time by chance?" And she said, "Oh yeah." She pulled out her phone. She said, "It's this time." I said, "All right, thank you. What was your name?" Because that's how I am, you know. I introduce myself to anybody if I have a conversation with them, you know, because I want to know who I'm talking to the next time I end up speaking to this person. So I asked her what her name was. She looked at my clothes. She said my clothes are all dirty because of the position I'm in. She said, "Oh, you must be this." You know, I'm not going to give out too many details because I'm not trying to put the company and give the company a bad look. So, but she said, "Oh, so this must be what you are." I said, "Yeah." She said, "That's a messy job." I said, "It sure is." And that was the end of the conversation. So I ended up walking back to the building. Got back to work, and it was just it was that. That was the end of the conversation, or at least that's what I thought it was. It was the end of the conversation. Some days passed by, or like a whole week, I think it was. I don't know, but all I know is I needed to talk to HR, and one of the managers was supposed to take me to HR, but my supervisor was like, your HR coordinator wants to talk to you." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then the guy that was taking me over there, I said, "So you have no idea why they want me to go over there?" He said, "No, they didn't tell me why." I said, "Okay." He said, "I'm sure it's not bad though. You haven't done nothing wrong." I said, "As far as I'm concerned, I did shit wrong." But when I get there, she has this other lady coming there too. So there's 2 ladies in there talking, and she was like, "Well, we called you in here because one of the female employees said your behavior towards them was kind of weird." I'm like, well, I didn't even make a face. I just had the same face I got now. Like, I'm just sitting there listening to what she's saying. I'm like, I don't really have much of a reaction because it's like, of course, I'm trying to stay calm in that situation so I don't look a certain way. But it was like, she said, and mind you, some of the shit that she, like, I'll say there's one thing that I was doing that she said that was actually true. And the only way, and she didn't even know I was doing it because I was behind her when I was doing it. But basically, what the lady said was, she said that you followed her to her car and was asking her a bunch of weird questions. And mind you, we was nowhere near her car, let alone anyone's car. So, what she was talking about, I don't know. The conversation had to have been like 20 seconds long. So, for me to ask a bunch of questions is just beyond me because you was there. You know exactly what I asked you. It was for the time and for your name, and that was all. And the conversation was over. But somehow in her mind, she was like, "Well, he followed me to my car, was asking me a bunch of weird questions." I'm like, a bunch of weird questions. And this is how I knew that it was all bullshit at the end of the day. Because I asked her, I said, "So, did she tell you what the weird questions was that I asked her?" She said, "No, that was just the one thing she didn't tell me. She didn't tell me what it was that you actually said." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So now she's gonna lie and say I followed her to her car. Then she's gonna lie and say that I asked her a bunch of weird questions. But that's the one thing she didn't tell you about, was what I actually said. Okay. Mind you, like I said, we were nowhere near her car. Any car. And this is what she said. She also said you were doing push-ups around here. This, that, and the third. And I said, okay, as far as following her to the car goes, I never followed her to her car. At all. And as far as the bunch of weird questions, all I did was ask her for the time and her name. Because that's what I do, is I introduce myself to people when I'm talking to them, if I don't know where they are. And as far as the push-ups go, I do remember I was doing push-ups, but it happened to be around her. She was just outside when I was doing my push-ups, because when I get tired at work, I do push-ups to wake myself up. That's what I do. So I'm doing push-ups, keep myself awake. And I'm just thinking to myself, what made you tell her that I was doing push-ups? And the only way you would have known if I was doing push-ups is if your boyfriend told you. Because I remember, I knew it was her boyfriend because of the way he was up on her and the way he was touching on her. I said, okay, it's not like I was worried about it. I just happened to see him walk up and do what he was doing, because I was facing the same direction as they was. Then I started doing my push-ups. I did 10 push-ups to stay awake. I said, what did you think I was trying to do? Show out with my 10 push-ups? What made you tell her that? Because that was yeah, that's crazy, man. Because when I was doing those push-ups, it was 2 breaks after that whole situation happened. So I'm what does it matter that I was doing push-ups? Is that against company policy to do push-ups? I really want to know why he told her that. The only way she would have known is if her boyfriend told her, because her boyfriend kept looking at me. And I wouldn't be surprised if he kept looking at me because she went and told him about me. Because why are you going to keep looking at me? Why are you looking at me all of a sudden after I just got into talking to your girlfriend? It wasn't even about nothing. It's not like I said anything flirtatious to her or anything. Anything along those lines to make her think to herself, I'm going to go report him and say he followed me to my car and asked me a bunch of weird questions. Doesn't make sense, but the HR lady was talking about, well, this isn't a disciplinary action type thing, or you're not in trouble or anything. We just want to get your side of the story, Not saying that you meant to, make her uncomfortable or anything like that. But, sometimes we have to be mindful that some people perceive things differently. I say, yeah, I completely understand, but what really happened was I said, hey, excuse me. I shouted, hey, excuse me, because she was a pretty good distance away, so she wouldn't hear me. And then she turned around, and I walked up to her so she could hear me. Then I asked her for the time. She showed me the time. It was straight bullshit, though. I can't possibly tell you why she said all that other stuff. Sometimes I think to myself, when women really make these lies, do you realize what just a lie like that could do to somebody's life? Even if you came out and said it in the end that it was not true, everyone's already gonna look at me. Everyone's already looking at me like that. Oh, he's that weird ass nigga that followed her to her car and was asking her a bunch of weird questions. How do you expect people to look at me when the damage is done? It's done. There's no, oh well, she was lying, so let's just, they could have fired me on the spot right there. But they was talking about there's not much more investigation going on. It was just we wanted to hear both sides of the story. And, I was like, okay, I guess it's good and all, but I'm not just gonna leave it at that and be like, oh yeah, that's what she said, because they could be just saying that, but then they surprise some shit on me one day, oh well, this is what actually happened, which is I'm not really truly worried, because there was cameras over there. How are you gonna lie knowing there's cameras right there? The camera will clearly see the conversation was 20 seconds long, and I never followed you to your car. So if you lied about me following you to the car, and I see that the conversation was really 20 seconds long, when I say 20 seconds long, it was really not that long. Think about, she must be lying about the questions, and because he never follows you to the car. But yeah, I don't know. It's just man, all I gotta say is, men, bro, y'all gotta be careful out there, man. Watch out for these women, because some of these women, they don't care what that kind of lie can do to your life at all. They don't care. So you just watch yourself, man. Be mindful of the women you talk to. Be mindful of the women that you're around by yourself. shit, if you're gonna be around a woman by herself, make sure there's cameras around, because shit, all she gotta do, if there's no cameras around, all she gotta do is lie. You said you did this, and they're instantly gonna side with you, because why is she saying that when there's no cameras around? You know. So just be careful out there, man. That's the only advice I can give you. I'm lucky that they didn't fire me. You know, I don't know if they're gonna fire me. They said that they wasn't, but we'll see. Just be careful out there, man. Watch the women you're hanging around, because they can leave you fucked up out here. It's that simple. Shit. Damn.